Hello students, let's study sensory system. So sensory system is concerned with the sensation of touch, pain, temperature, vibration, vision, smell. So the organs involved in sensory system are skin for the touch, pain, temperature, sensation, eye for vision, ear for hearing, nose for smell, tongue for taste sensation. So speaker Dr. Rajashree Mutha. So now let's study eye, the organ of vision. So eyeball contains three layers: fibrous, vascular and sensory. So first fibrous layer contains sclera and cornea. So sclera is the outer white opaque membrane. When we see eye, the white portion is called sclera, and it functions mainly as protection and shape to the eyeball, and also site for attachment of some eye muscles. Second is cornea, the anterior transparent membrane which receives light rays is called cornea. The second is the vascular layer, and it contains choroid, ciliary body and iris. So choroid is the posterior part which contains blood vessels and which give nourishment to the retina. The next part is the ciliary body, which consists of ciliary processes and ciliary muscles. And ciliary processes contain blood capillaries which secrete aqueous humor, which is present in the anterior chamber of the eyeball. Ciliary muscles, suspensory ligaments and zonular fibers that attach with the lens extend from ciliary processes. Ciliary muscles are bands of smooth muscles which remain attached with suspensory ligaments. So by contraction and relaxation of ciliary muscles, suspensory ligaments are adjusted, and these in turn alter the shape of the lens to adjust to the light for near and far vision. The next part is iris. So when we see eye, the pigmented either brown or black or grey color, so that pigmented portion is called as iris. It is made up of iris muscles and the color of the eye, and then it is the central opening is called pupil. So iris is the pigmented diaphragm and which present between cornea and the lens, and it function, so it regulate the size of the pupil. Then pupil is in the center, which regulates the amount of light to pass to the lens. The third sensory layer is called retina. It is the innermost layer of the eyeball, and its function is image fall on the retina. So now retina contains two layers, the outer pigmented layer and the inner neural layer. So the outer pigmented layer, it consists of epithelial cells and which absorb light and prevent it from scattering. This layer stores vitamin A for proper functioning of photoreceptor cells and also act as phagocytes. The inner neural layer contains neural cells. So these cells are ganglion cells, bipolar cells and photoreceptor cells. So photoreceptor cells contains rods and cones. So rods contain rhodopsin, also called as visual purple, and it has scotopic vision, that means the vision is the night time, twilight. And cones, it is photopic vision, that is vision in the daylight, and color vision. The photopigments are opsin, which is protein, and the retinal, which is vitamin A. Now we will see lens and chambers of the eye. So lens, the behind pupil and iris, there is a cavity of the eyeball and in which the lens is present. It is biconvex, transparent, flexible structure. It is held in place by suspensory ligaments. Lens is made up of lens epithelial cells, and the function of lens is refraction of light. Chambers of the eye, so two chambers are there. So in front of the lens, the chamber is called as anterior chamber. So it is present between cornea and lens, and it contains the liquid that is watery, and it's called as aqueous humor. And behind the lens, between retina and lens, the chamber is called posterior chamber. It contains gel-like material, so that is called as vitreous humor. The accessory parts of the eye are conjunctiva, meibomian glands and lacrimal apparatus. So conjunctiva is the thin and transparent layer over the eyelids and the anterior surface of the eyeball. So function is produce lubricating mucus which protects the eyes from drying out. So there are two parts of the conjunctiva. Palpebral conjunctiva lies over the lids that is eyelids, upper and lower eyelids, and we can use that to see anemia. And the bulbar conjunctiva, it lies over the eyeball, and we can use this to see jaundice. Meibomian glands are located at the upper and inner corner of the upper eyelid, and the ducts of these glands open at the edge of the eyelid just posterior to the eyelashes. These glands produce oily secretion, so which prevents eyelids from sticking together. Lacrimal apparatus, it consists of lacrimal glands and lacrimal ducts. So lacrimal glands are almond shaped exocrine glands situated below the upper eyelid, and they secrete tear. So the lacrimal fluid secreted by lacrimal gland contains water, mucus, antibodies and lysozyme. So it is an enzyme which kills bacteria, and thus it protects eyeball. So optic nerve is the second cranial nerve which carries sensation from eye to the central nervous system. So it is which leaves the eyeball at the posterior pole of the eyeball, and there the photoreceptor cells are absent, and therefore there is no vision, so that posterior pole is called as blind spot. Lateral to this blind spot there is called macula lutea. In that the small depression is there which is called as fovea centralis. So it consists only mainly cones, and therefore when light falls on this region the sharpest image is formed. Function of the eye. So main function of the eye is vision. So eye is a special organ of sight. It is constructed to receive stimuli of the rays of light on retina, and by means of optic nerve to transmit these stimuli to visual center of the brain for the interpretation. So there are some adjustments. So first is accommodation of the lenses. So ciliary muscles contract and they release tension on suspensory ligaments. Therefore the elastic lens, without tension, it bulges out and it allows the image to focus on the retina. Constriction of pupil. So circular muscles of the iris relax and they decrease the size of the pupil, which causes constriction of the pupil, and then it allows the maximum light to fall on the lens. Convergence of the eyeball. So eyeball converge when we see at the closer object, and then it allows the light to fall on the retinal fovea. Now let's see mechanism of vision. So light falls on cornea, then it falls on the lens, then it falls on the retina. So retina contains retinal opsin, so which changes the membrane permeability, that is potential difference. Then that signal produces action potential, and then it goes to the bipolar cells, then ganglion cells, and then to the optic nerve, and from optic nerve it is going to the visual cortex, that is midbrain, for the analysis, and the image is recognized and identified. Let's study applied part. So ophthalmology is the study of eye and eye diseases. Conjunctivitis, it is inflammation of the conjunctiva, and because the eye is red or pink, it is also called as pink eye. Keratitis, it is inflammation of the cornea. Glaucoma, it is increased pressure in the aqueous humor. Cataract, it is opacity of the lens. Defects in vision can be myopia, also called as nearsightedness. So nearby objects can be seen clearly, but the far away objects are not seen clearly, and it can be corrected by using concave lens. Hypermetropia, so it is also called as far-sightedness. So nearby objects are not seen clearly, and defect can be corrected by using convex lens. Presbyopia, it is usually seen in aged persons. It is a refractive error due to hardening of the lens, and it may occur along with nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism, that is defective curvature of the eye or the lens. Hello students, let's study sensory system. So sensory system is concerned with the sensation of touch, pain, temperature, vibration, vision, smell. So the organs involved in sensory system are skin for the touch, pain, temperature, sensation, eye for vision, ear for hearing, nose for smell, tongue for taste sensation. So speaker Dr. Rajashree Mutha. The second sensory organ is ear. So it is organ of hearing and balance, and it is also called as vestibulocochlear apparatus. So the parts of the ear are external ear, middle ear, internal ear, and the tympanic membrane, which is present between middle ear and the external ear. So first is the external ear. So external ear consists of three parts: auricle or pinna, then external auditory or acoustic meatus, and the tympanic membrane. So auricle, it helps in catching the sound waves or vibrations. Then external auditory meatus, so it is a opening which contains hair, sebaceous glands, and ceruminous glands. So ceruminous glands are modified sweat glands which secrete yellowish brown wax, and the sebaceous glands secrete oil. And the tympanic membrane, it is also called as eardrum. It is present between external ear and middle ear, and it is the function to catch sound waves. The second part is the middle ear. So it is separated from the external ear by a tympanic membrane, also called as eardrum, and from the internal ear by a very small bony portion that is possessing two small membrane covered structures, that is round window and oval window. So it contains three ear ossicles, malleus, incus, and stapes in sequence. So the sequence of sound waves to travel from external ear, acoustic meatus, to tympanic membrane, then from tympanic membrane to malleus, to incus, to stapes, and then the cochlea through the oval window. The function of middle ear is the increased efficiency of transmission of sound waves to inner ear. The eustachian tube is present. It connects middle ear and pharynx, and the function of this is equalization of pressure on both sides of the eardrum. But when the infection in the throat or pharynx is there, then that infection is traveled to the ear through the eustachian tube, and there may be sensation of pain or sometimes discharge from the ear. The third part is the internal ear. It is also called as labyrinth. It is filled with the fluid, that is perilymph. So it has two parts: bony labyrinth. So it consists of three parts: vestibule, semicircular canal, and the cochlea. So there are hollow cavities. Vestibule and semicircular, three semicircular canals possess receptors for equilibrium, that is balance, and cochlea is a coiled structure that is responsible for the hearing, and they are surrounded by a fluid, that is perilymph, and it is chemically similar to the cerebrospinal fluid. The second part of the internal ear is the membranous labyrinth, and it consists of series of epithelial sacs and tubes and the two prominent structures, that is utricle and saccule. The walls of both utricle and saccule contain thickened regions called macula, and macula helps to maintain the equilibrium, and it is filled with a fluid, that is endolymph, and the endolymph has the higher concentration of the potassium as compared to the extracellular fluid. The internal ear detailed structure. So there are two membranes, Reissner membranes and the basilar membrane. So bony labyrinth is divided into the upper scala vestibuli end is the oval window, and lower scala tympani, the end is the round window which connects with the middle ear, and the space within cochlea is called scala media, and it is filled with the endolymph. The tectorial membrane, it is present above rows of the hair cells, that is called as organ of Corti, and it is located on basilar membrane, the rows of the hair cells. It contains hair cells. They are auditory receptors, and the hair cell has two parts: basal part attached to the afferent nerve fiber, and the apical part has stereocilia. Now let's see functions of the ear. So it transmits sound waves from external to internal ear through the chain of ear ossicles, that is malleus, incus, and stapes, and transforms the airborne vibration in the environment from tympanic membrane to the liquid borne vibration in the internal ear. The intensity of the sound waves is increased 10 times by the ossicles. So main functions of the ear are two. One is hearing and second is balance. So mechanism of hearing. So sound waves are traveling from external ear, that is through the eardrum vibrations are produced, then to the ear ossicles, that is malleus, incus and stapes, then to the oval window, then fluid of the cochlea, so waves are produced, and then basilar membrane, then hair cells press against the tectorial membrane, then nerve impulse is formed and it is carried to the afferent fiber, then to the auditory nerve, then to the auditory cortex in the midbrain, then analysis of the impulse and the sound is recognized. Hope you find this session useful for your understanding and for your exams. Thank you.